I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay, we're going to kill them.
FBI and ICE just hit Chicago like never before, taking down massive Sinaloa and CJNG drug networks. What they uncovered will shock you, and it's bigger than anyone imagined. At 4 a.m., while the city was still sleeping, convoys of federal agents were already moving. In Chicago and across 21 major U.S. cities, thousands of agents from the DEA, FBI, and Homeland Security deployed in a synchronized strike they called the Surge. This wasn't your typical raid. It was a full-scale offensive against the Sinaloa cartel and CJNG, the two most powerful drug networks operating in America today. Within months, over 5,000 people were arrested and more than $200 million in drugs, weapons, and assets were seized. But the real shock wasn't the drugs.
Police search warrant, open the door! Police search warrant! Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
It was who was behind some of those arrests. County sheriffs, border inspectors, even federal officers, people sworn to protect America, were caught helping poisoning it. The very men and women wearing the badge were turning it into a shield for crime. Chicago, often called America's logistics hub, had become the central artery for fentanyl and meth distribution across the country. Every shipment, every stack of cash, every hidden warehouse, everything moved through the city. Chemicals from China and India arrived disguised as industrial solvents, cooked into lethal doses in massive super labs in Mexico, and then smuggled north hidden in cargo trucks, containers, and sometimes even through migrant flows.
Who suffer from addiction to the poison that they spread throughout our community, from their loved ones who have to watch their family members overdose, die, or suffer from these ill effects.
The human cost is staggering. Fentanyl is deadly in doses as small as 2 milligrams, and yet it floods communities across the US. More than 100,000 Americans die each year from overdoses, nearly 70% linked to fentanyl. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Morgues run out of space. High schools now stock Narcan alongside fire extinguishers. And while the cartels operated like multinational corporations, the money side was just as ruthless. Cash collected in Chicago and Miami flowed through shell companies, laundered through offshore cryptocurrency exchanges, and returned as legitimate investments. Real estate, trucking fleets, nightclubs, even political donations. Cartels had a hand in it all. This wasn't just a crime. It was a shadow economy built on American deaths. The surge began with Phase 1 in Phoenix, Arizona. Helicopters cut through the early morning sky as breach charges shattered garage doors. Flashbangs lit up homes that doubled as pill mills, pressing millions of counterfeit oxycodone tablets, each one laced with enough fentanyl to kill. In just 1 week, 2,500 Sinaloa-linked subjects were in custody, $85 million in cash seized, along with industrial pill presses and storage drums filled with synthetic precursors.
And they created duplicate fake seals in order to circumvent the inspection process. They would create those duplicate fake seals in China, and they would send them from China to their criminal partners here in the United States.
Phase 2 hit 3 weeks later, targeting the CJNG cartel, known for its brutal enforcement tactics. At the port of Long Beach, cargo cranes stood still as federal teams swarmed container ships labeled as industrial cleaning supplies. Inside, thousands of kilograms of fentanyl precursors waited to be processed. In Miami, waterfront properties connected to shadow real estate networks were raided. In Houston, tractor-trailer convoys were intercepted, carrying hundreds of military-grade firearms destined for cartel enforcers. This was no longer just a drug operation. It was a war supply chain, an industrial-scale operation with tentacles in every corner of the country. And yet, the real challenge wasn't just outside in the streets, it was inside the system itself. Some of those arrests weren't cartel soldiers. They were law enforcement officers, the very people meant to stop the cartels. County sheriffs, border inspectors, and even federal officers were taking bribes, ignoring warnings, and helping cartels move drugs, guns, and money. Corruption wasn't random. It was systematic, feeding on institutional fatigue. Rapid hiring, shortened background checks, and minimal oversight made it easy for the cartels to infiltrate the very system meant to stop them. The money trail revealed something even more chilling. Cartels weren't just bribing individuals. They were feeding bureaucracy itself. Cash from street-level trafficking was funneled through front companies, routed through offshore cryptocurrency exchanges, washed clean, and returned as legitimate capital. From there, it flowed into city contracts, political donations, and real estate deals. Bribes didn't look like cash in envelopes anymore. They looked like profitable municipal contracts or campaign contributions. For federal prosecutors, the evidence was clear. Corruption was no longer hypothetical. It was embedded and systemic. In El Paso, a Customs and Border Protection officer was charged with waving through trucks carrying both narcotics and undocumented migrants. In Arizona, internal affairs investigations revealed supervisors who ignored credible warnings about colleagues accepting cartel money. The enemy wasn't just outside, it was inside the shield. Recognizing the scale of the threat, the US government took a historic step. The Sinaloa and CJNG cartels were officially classified as foreign terrorist organizations. This gave the Pentagon and Northern Command the authority to work alongside the DEA and Homeland Security in new aggressive ways. The approach shifted from policing to a war plan. The goal was no longer simply degrading cartel operations. It was defeating and destroying them entirely to defend the homeland. With this new policy, federal forces coordinated national strikes across 22 divisions and 7 foreign regions. The surge became more than a law enforcement operation. It became a full-scale counter-terror campaign. Every shipment seized, every raid conducted, every arrest made sent a clear message. The United States would not allow these operations to operate with impunity. The results were staggering. More than 5,000 arrests, over $200 million in drugs, weapons, and assets seized, and multiple cartel supply lines dismantled. But even with these victories, challenges remain. Fentanyl production is cheap and scalable, supply chains can rebuild, and while the visible threat was being crushed, the internal threat persisted. More than 100 law enforcement officers were indicted for corruption, raising questions about trust in institutions. The truth is, the fight isn't over. Every day, over 150 Americans die from fentanyl overdoses, and the financial network of the cartels remain resilient. The war has changed. It is no longer just about drugs or arrests. It is about strengthening the system itself and defending the country from threats both outside and within. The surge proved that when federal agents, intelligence officers, analysts, and prosecutors act with unity and purpose, the ground can shake beneath even the most entrenched criminal organizations. It proved that the badge still carries honor, that good people still fight when the stakes are highest, and that the United States can respond decisively to threats that seem unstoppable. But it also served as a reminder. Evil does not need permission to grow. It only requires good people to look away. And in this case, good people didn't look away. They stood in the doorway between order and collapse, and they chose to fight. Now, the question is for all of us. Do we continue to demand stronger borders, stronger accountability, and stronger protection for our communities? Do we support those who put their lives on the line to stop cartels and corruption alike? Because this war is far from over, and every voice matters. So remember, the next time you hear about the surge, don't just see the handcuffs or the headlines. If you believe America must keep fighting this war, show your support, hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Stay aware, stay informed, and remember, the safety of our communities depends on all of us paying attention.